You can set up Snort in your own home environment. You're perfectly fine. We're not going to cover that in this lab, but you can definitely download it and play around with it and practice using Snort. I encourage you to do so you can kind of see what Snort output looks like, see what's contained in packets, figure out ways you can bypass it, right? So, be running Snort and then figure out ways you can get your packets past it. And just play around with that as well. It'll make you a better penetration tester if you decide to use that as a career path. So all we're going to do is log into Cybrary, which everyone should be logged into already. And then we're just going to click Catalog at the top. I've already actually done that. So it just takes us to our little search box here. In our search box, we're just going to search for ethical hacker. And then what that's going to do is show us, it'll show us a lot of things, but it'll show us the Certified Ethical Hacker practice labs. And that's what we want to look for. So if we just type in ethical hacker here, and usually it'll start pulling up for us here, and you can also hit enter. You'll see this third option down here is the one we want, the Certified Ethical Hacker, then CEH in parentheses, and then you'll see it says Practice Labs right here. So just go ahead and click on the Start Now button. It's going to take a moment or so to launch, and it's going to take us in, there's several labs listed in here, and so we're just going to go through and find the lab we actually want to go ahead and start and gen up our machines. So as I mentioned, it might take a moment or so. It probably doesn't take a minute or two. It depends on your system, but it's generally maybe like 10 or 15 seconds max is usually what it takes. And then we're just going to scroll down the page we're at right now until we see the Configuring IDS and Honeypots lab. All right, so just scroll down this page here. You'll see it's down near the bottom. It's actually the third one from the bottom. Just go ahead and click on that. And then you're going to see a Start button right here. And then just click on Start. So again, we clicked on the Configuring IDS and Honeypots lab. And then we just click the Start button. Once you do that, it's going to pull up that individual lab environment for us. And then what we're going to do is actually go ahead and just start up our machine so they can get started. Those might take like 30 to 40 seconds to start up. So let's go ahead and just do that. So just hover your mouse over top of each one. Click that Power On option. And then that'll go ahead and get those machines booting up for us. So let's wait for a moment to let those do that. We'll go back to our lab document here. So as I mentioned, we clicked on Configuring IDS and Honeypots. We clicked on that lab. Then we saw a Start button at the bottom. We clicked on that. And now we are in the process of turning on all our virtual machines. And once those turn on, we're going to go to PLab Win 10 and select that one. So let's go back to the lab and see if they pulled up yet. So it looks like they have. So I'm just going to click on the PLab Win 10, so this one right here. It's going to take a moment or so to actually pull it up for us. While it's doing that, I'm going to go back to our lab document here. So you'll see here our next step, once it pulls up for us, is actually just right-clicking on the Start menu and then selecting the search option. And then we're going to type in Internet Explorer, and once we find it, we're just going to click on it. And it's going to launch Internet Explorer for us. So we're going to go ahead and do steps 10 through 12 right now. So we're just going to right click on the Start menu, select the search option, type in Internet Explorer, and then just go ahead and launch it. All right, so we're just going to right click on the Start menu here, click Search, and then you'll see it gives us a little search box here. Just start typing in Internet Explorer. You'll see you don't have to type in the entire thing, and it actually starts pulling it up for us. So just go ahead and click on that. It's going to open up the intranet page for us. So you'll see we have that there. So let's go back to our lab document. All right, so we see that we clicked here in step 12, we clicked Internet Explorer, we went ahead and launched it. It opened the intranet page for us. Now we're going to go ahead and click on Tools and then Hacking Tools. So we'll go ahead and knock out steps 14 and 15 right now. So we're going to click on Tools at the bottom here. And then we're going to have to scroll down a little bit, and you'll see that we have Hacking Tools. It's about halfway down or so on the page. Let's go ahead and click on that. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So now we're going to scroll down the page until we see the actual installer file for Snort, right? So look for the Snort _2_9_7_0, etc., installer.exe. And now if you're watching this as like an archive later on at some point in the future, this might be a different version that they have, as an updated version. But just look for Snort and then whatever version number and then installer.exe. All right, once we find that, we're just going to go ahead and click on it and download it. You're going to get two different prompts that say run. So you'll get one, then you're just going to click run, and then you'll get another one, and you'll just say run to that as well. And then you'll see a user account control pop up, basically saying, hey, do you really want to do this? And you're just going to say yes to that. So we're going to go ahead and knock out step 16 to 19 right now. All right, so we're just going to scroll down the page here until we see our snort installation file. So it's going to be this one right here, this snort underscore etc. and then installer.exe. So just go ahead and click on that. You'll see it prompts us at the bottom, and so that's our first run, right? So we just, and it's going to take a second or so, and then it's going to prompt us again, basically saying, do you really want to do this? And we're just going to say run again. And that's where we get that UAC or user account control pop-up box saying, hey, again, I don't know who this is, who this executable is from. Do you really want to do this? And we're just going to say yes to that. All right, so now you'll see we come to our license agreement page. So let's go back to our lab document. All right, so now we're at step number 20, and we're just going to accept that license agreement. And then the installation wizard for Snort is going to start for us. We're basically just going to leave the defaults and just click next all the way through. And then finally, once it's installed, we're going to click the close button. And then we're also going to get a pop-up that says, hey, it was installed successfully, and we're just going to select OK to that. So we're basically just going to install it using all the defaults and then basically say OK until all those pop-ups go away. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're just going to say I agree to the license agreement. Again, we leave all the defaults alone. Just say next there and next one more time. That's going to go ahead and install it for us. If you get a pop-up about Windows Firewall, just ignore that. We don't have to worry about that. Once it's installed, it's going to give us a close option. Just go ahead and click on that. And then you'll see it gives us a pop-up saying, hey, it's been successfully installed. Just say OK to that as well. You'll see that it'll close all those pop-ups for us. So let's go back to our lab document. All right, so you'll see we've gone here, we've successfully installed it. We selected the OK button. All right, so now we're going to go back to our intranet page, which we actually have up on the other screen there. And then we're going to go back to Tools, and then we're going to click on the Snort folder. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to scroll back up to the top here. Click back on Tools, so right here. And then now we're going to scroll down till we see Snort, so an actual Snort folder. All right, we see it down there near the bottom. Let's go ahead and click on that. It's going to open it up for us. All right, so let's go back to our lab document and take a look. So you'll see now that we've found our Snort folder, we're going to click where it says blacklist.rules. Okay? And then once we find that, we're going to select Save As. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so we find our blacklist.rules. We're just going to click on it. And then we're going to click this little arrow to go to Save As. That's going to open up a little search box for us where we can figure out where we want to actually place this at. So let's go back to our lab document to see, like, where do we want to save this file at? To the C drive and then the folder, the rules folder inside of Snort. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to go to the C drive and then Snort and then rules, and then we're just going to go ahead and save that file. All right, so let's go to C drive. So we're just going to click on this PC. We're just going to scroll down till we get to our C drive and just double click on it. And then we're also going to double click where it says Snort, and then double click where it says rules. All right, and then just click on the save button. All right, let's go back to our lab document. All right, so we see now that, we've navigated to the C drive, we went to the Snort folder, then we went to the rules folder, we clicked on the save button. So our next step here is we're going to actually minimize Internet Explorer, and then now we're going to create our Snort rules. So basically our Snort rules documents. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to minimize Internet Explorer, then we're going to click the Windows Explorer icon. So it's just that that little folder looking icon on your taskbar there. And then we're going to go to C, Snort, and then lib. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're just going to minimize this. All right, we're going to click this little folder down here at the bottom. It's going to open up our Windows Explorer for us. We're going to go back to the C drive. So again, click on this PC, and then we can just double click on our C drive, go to Snort. All right, and then lib. All right, let's go back to our lab document. All right, so we've launched Windows Explorer by clicking the little folder icon. We've navigated to the C drive, and then inside of that, we've navigated to the Snort folder as well as the lib folder. So now what we're going to do inside of there is we're going to click the folder icon. We're basically going to create a new folder. So we're going to call that new folder Snort_dynamic rules. So again, Snort underscore dynamic rules. So let's go back to that folder there. Just click that little icon there near the top left. Create a new folder. All right, call it snort underscore dynamic rules. All right, so you'll see here we have snort and then underscore dynamic rules. All right, so let's go ahead and just basically save that new folder, and then we're going to click the view menu. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so just kind of click over here anywhere in the white area there. It's going to basically just save that one for us. And now we're going to go ahead and click on the view, and we're going to click here where it says options, and then change folder and search options. So let's go ahead and do that. So if you come back to our step-by-step here, we've clicked the view menu, we selected options, and then if we scroll down just a little bit here, we see that we selected change folder and search options. All right, that's going to give us a pop-up box. And then we're going to select the view tab. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we'll come back here. We see we do have our pop-up box. We're just going to select this view tab in the center here. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look for where it says hide extensions for known file types. And so we're just going to go ahead and uncheck the box next to that. And then we're just going to select the OK button to save our change. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're just going to uncheck this box right here, this hide extensions for known file types, and then basically just say OK to that. That's going to save the change we just did. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click snort at the top where it's the file path. We're going to click snort in there. That's going to take us back to the main snort folder, and then we're just going to double click where it says the rules folder. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're just going to click up here where it says snort. Let's go ahead and click on that. And then just double click where it says rules to open up our rules folder. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So now what we're going to do, we're going to right click just on the blank area in the window there, and you'll see that in a second. Then we're going to select new and then text document. All right, so just right click here. Go down here to near the bottom, select new. And then down here, just above where it says zipped, if you're working here on the machine, we're going to select text document. All right, so now it wants us to name that. So let's go back to our lab document and see what do we need to name this thing. Step 47 now. All right, so now we're going to rename this white underscore list dot rules. So white underscore list dot rules. All right, so let's rename that white underscore list and then dot rules. All right, so we're going to remove the .txt. So we just made this into a rules file. All right, so whitelist.rules. Now we're going to get this pop-up here saying, hey, you know, if you change a file extension, it might become unusable. Do you really want to do this? We're just going to say yes to that pop-up because we want to change this. All right, cool. So now you see it says white underscore list.rules. So let's go back to our lab document now. All right, so you see here in step 48, yes, we did get that warning prompt. And so we do want to do this. Now we're just going to right click on that whitelist rules, and then we're just going to basically copy and paste it because we need to make a blacklist rules as well. All right, so just kind of right click and we're going to copy it, and then we're just going to paste it into here as well. Now if you get this little pop-up about your clipboard, you can always just click the little checkbox there and then just X out of it, and it should go away for the rest of the time, at least while you're working in one of these labs. And then all right, so let's go back to our lab document here. So now we went ahead and we did the copy and paste. Now we're just going to change the name on the copied one to blacklist rules. All right, so we're just going to change this here. We're going to right click on it and say rename. And then we're just going to call it black underscore list rules. All right, cool. Then just kind of click over here in the white area. So you'll see we have black underscore list rules. We have blacklist rules, which we're not worried about right now. And then we have white underscore list rules as well. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click back on that snort folder. So if you remember in the path, we're going to click back on where it says snort. It's going to take us back to the main snort folder. Then we're going to go into the etc folder. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so we're going to click here where it says snort. right here where it says etc, we're just going to double click on that to open it up. You'll see we got some different files in there. Let's go back to our lab document. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder in here. We're going to do it kind of like we did before with white underscore list and black underscore list. We're going to do one for each one called white underscore list path. So make sure you put this in all caps, and then black underscore list path as well. All right, so to click our little file path right here. All right, so we've went ahead and found it. So now it's highlighted it here in step 76. So now we're going to replace this path here with this path here. So we're just going to go through this step by step. So we're going to do C:// snort / lib / snort underscore dynamic preprocessor. So let's just do baby steps here. All right, so once we found that here, we're just going to click over here and we'll just highlight our current path. And if my mouse cooperates, there we go. All right, so we're going to start off by doing C:// snort / lib. So let's go ahead and do that now. So C:// snort and / lib. And I hope your typing is going better than mine is today. I seem to be fat fingering like crazy. All right. So now we've got lib. We're going to do / snort underscore dynamic preprocessor. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right. So snort underscore dynamic preprocessor. All right. So snort underscore dynamic preprocessor. Once we do that, we're just going to leave that alone. So let's go back to our lab document. So now we're going to click back on our little pop-up box that we have open there, our little find box. We're just going to close that out. All right, so let's go ahead and do that now. So basically, you're just going to click on this box. You'll see it highlights it again. Just click on the close button there. All right, a couple other things we're going to do in this general area. We're going to be changing the paths for as well. So let's go back to our lab document. So you'll see here we've closed out our find box here. Now we're going to go to step 79 here. So on line 250, we're going to replace that current path that's on there with this one right here. So the C:// snort / lib / snort underscore dynamic engine / SF underscore engine.dll. So that's a lot to type in. We're going to do it baby steps like we did before. So let's start out with C:// snort / lib. All right, so here in line 250, we're going to do it right here. So we'll do C:// snort / lib. Okay, let's go back to our lab document. So we've done C snort / lib, and then we're going to do / snort underscore dynamic engine. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to do snort underscore dynamic engine. All right, let's go back to our lab document. Now we're going to do /SF underscore engine.dll. So /SF underscore engine.dll. All right, so /SF underscore engine.dll. All right, let's just double check ourselves, right? So we got C snort, lib, snort underscore dynamic engine, and then SF engine.dll. So C snort underscore, lib, snort underscore dynamic engine, SF underscore engine.dll. So that looks correct. So let's move on to line 253. So again, we're going to replace that current path there with this new path. So the C snort lib snort underscore dynamic rules. All right, so again, baby steps here. We're just going to do C snort and then lib. So C:// snort / lib. All right, so same thing here on this one. So we're just going to do C colon /snort /lib, and then come back to our lab document here. So now we're just going to add in snort underscore dynamic rules. All right, so snort underscore dynamic rules. All right, so now let's go back to our lab documents. We typed those in there. So now what we're going to do is step 81, we're going to click search at the top and then click on replace. And then it's going to basically give us a find what box. And then a space, and then the word normalize. And then we also want to consider like, okay, well, what do we want to replace this with, right? So once we find it, what do we want to replace it with? So let's go back to our lab document and see like what that is. All right, so we see in step 83 that we're going to actually be replacing this with preprocessor normalize again, but we're going to put a pound sign in front of it. So let's go ahead and do that now. And once we do that, we're going to select the replace all button in our little pop-up window there. All right, so we're just going to put a pound sign, and then we're just going to put preprocessor normalize again. All right, and then just click on replace all. And you'll see that it's going to show us again at the bottom like how many occurrences that it's replaced. In this case, we see 5, which is correct. All right, let's go back to our lab document. All right, so yes, we do see in step 85 that, yes, there were 5 occurrences that were replaced. So now we're just going to click the close button on that particular pop-up window, and then we're going to go back to the search at the top and select find. All right, so now we're going to go back to the top of our document and then just go to find. All right, it gives us our little search box again. So let's go back to our lab document and see like, okay, well, what do we want to search for next? And you kind of see, as I mentioned, these are very tedious tasks inside of Snort, which is why we would generally automate stuff with a script so we don't have to sit here and just type in all day long and copy and paste and do all this other stuff. So just keep that in mind for the real world, that you'll generally just write a script, or somebody else will have a script pre-built that you can just use for your systems. All right, so in the find box, we're going to type in VAR, all lowercase, and then all capital, white underscore list underscore path. So let's go ahead and do that. We're just going to press enter once we do that. So basically, variable is white list path. All right, so let's go ahead and type that in now. All right, so once we do that, just go ahead and hit the enter key on your keyboard. You'll see there that it automatically finds it for us in the background. All right, so we're going to make some other changes here. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what kind of changes we're going to do. So here in step 90, you see that, yes, it is highlighted in the background there of the document. And we've got, our current little pop-up window open. And then step 91, we're going to be replacing that file path that ends in .. /. We're going to replace it with C://snort /rules. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so we're just going to basically click, and I'm going to probably drag that up or down. Let's see here. I think I'm going to drag it down a little bit. Just kind of leave it there out of my way. All right. So this section right here is what we're going to change. So we're going to go ahead and change it to C://snort /, I'm pretty sure it was etc, no, rules. Okay, that's what I thought. All right, so /rules. Okay. So now we're going to do the exact same thing with our blacklist path as well. We're going to do C://snort rules again. All right, so you'll see that one here as well. We just did our whitelist one. And if it cooperates, there we go. Cool. All right, so snort and then rules. All right, good deal. So let's go back to our lab document. All right, so now we're on the find pop-up box again. So now we're basically going to be kind of going through a process of finding things, replacing it, and or commenting out different areas. Just about to the commenting, you'll see that's number 100 in our steps, and that one's a little tedious. If you're looking ahead, you'll kind of see that, hey, there's a lot of different lines there that I have to go through, and unfortunately we just kind of have to go through them because we're not able to write a script that will execute in the sandbox environment. So all that digression aside, let's go ahead and keep trucking through this stuff. So in the find box, once we click back on it, we're going to look for the $sign and then white_list. So all that together, and then we're going to look for that. So let's go ahead and do that now. So in this box here, just go ahead and put a $sign, space, and then white_list. All right, and then just press enter on your keyboard. And that should pull up all the ones with oh, I think that's why. I think I needed path in there. So I was getting the error message there. Oh, that's interesting. That's weird. It's not pulling up. So let's see if it pulls up this way. I might have mistyped that on the thing. Nope. Interesting. Between there. That's why. So make sure you don't put a space. That should pull up. There we go. Cool. All right. Good deal. This is kind of like a real life pen test, right? You're typing commands like you normally would, and it's not working. And that's real life, by the way. If you haven't ever done a penetration test, it's not like Hollywood makes it out, where there's all sorts of like neon lights going and maybe a disco ball turning and stuff like that. Like you're typing code or a command and like stuff doesn't work and you're getting frustrated and you're like, you're trying to figure it out. So a lot of it's troubleshooting. Glad. I hate when I have these little errors in these things in these sessions, but I think it's good exposure to show that, like, even if you're experienced doing penetration testing and stuff, that you could still make mistakes or something, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's good if you're brand new to it to see this and get exposed to that. So again, digressing a bit, and I know we're getting kind of close on time, so I'm going to try to crank through stuff because I know it's going to take us a few minutes to do the commenting out of things. So we went ahead and searched for that here, and all we're going to do with that and also the blacklist one is just removing the $signs. So let's just kind of crank through those. So we're just going to click here and basically just delete out the $signs. All right, so same thing there, just delete that out. We'll click back on our find box and go back to our lab document. All right, so now we're going to be looking for this in our find box, step 98. We're going to type in $rule_path/blacklist.rules. So again, $rule_path/blacklist.rules. No spaces in those at all. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Rule. I think I'm typing that wrong. I think it was rule list. No, rule path. I was correct. And then /blacklist.rules. And if I put list in there, that will definitely run a lot better. So, some of it's double checking yourself as well. Cool. So you'll see here we've got all these rules. Now, we're going to be modifying this one here, and then everything else basically is going to be commented out. And so we'll do that as kind of our next step in the lab. So again, right now we're on track to finish on time, but if for some reason we don't, I'm going to keep going just so the recording has everything, but feel free to drop off the call if you need to. All right, so all we're going to do here on this one is just change blacklist to black_list, and then we'll move into the commenting out, which again takes a few minutes. So let's do that now. So just click in there between black and blacklist and just put the underscore symbol. And all right, so now we're going to move into commenting out everything else. So what we're going to do basically is at the start of each line, just put the £, and that'll comment it out. So we have to do it for the first few lines that were before this blacklist area. and then we have to do it for all these other lines that go up to line 650. So as you see, we're doing almost 100 lines, or roughly 100 lines. So that's a lot. It takes a few minutes to do. So I'm just going to start cranking through it. Now you'll see me doing it kind of quickly, or at least somewhat quickly, as quick as I can. And so I'll be using the arrow keys on my keyboard to kind of, to maneuver and put the pound symbol in with my other hand. And so I'll be kind of cranking through it. So I'm not going to go slow on this aspect because I want to crank through this and make sure we finish on time. However, on your end, if you want to take it slow and go through it, that's totally fine. Again, that's why we have the step-by-step guide, so you can kind of go through that. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So I'm just going to go ahead and start cranking through this stuff because I know it takes several minutes. Even on my best time, still took a few minutes. So part of that's me being a somewhat slower typer. Part of it's also being the fact that we're doing like 100 of them. All right, so same thing here. We're just kind of cranking through. You'll see in the background, I'm basically just putting the pound sign, as I mentioned, at the start of each line. Now sometimes the lab itself, the lab environment's a little slow, so you'll notice I'm kind of giving myself a slight pause before I type the pound symbol. That's based off my own experience of and not always catching up to me quickly enough, and then I have to go back and type the some of the command again that's in there. So you'll see here, of course, now that I mentioned it might take a while, it's going relatively quickly, but you're really just doing this, right? It's pretty tedious, and this is probably the most tedious portion of today's lab, is just going through and making sure you comment all this stuff out. And I'm actually going a lot faster than I was, so maybe muscle memory, doing this like 15 times to make sure the lab worked properly. I think that's finally paid off, so I'm excited about that, right? So we don't have too much more to go on my end, but again, just kind of take your time, go through it if you need to. Don't feel like you have to keep the same pace as me on this particular aspect. Now I'm going to keep going in the lab, so I'm not going to give a pause here to allow people to catch up. So keep that in mind as well. Feel free to finish out by watching me as you're going through this and do the next steps off the step-by-step guide. But again, I'm just going to kind of crank through. I know, we're kind of coming up on time for today's session, so I don't want to hold people over if I can avoid it. So yeah, well, and I'm not going to hold you over. Let's just say it like that. So you'll see me just kind of keep cranking through as I talk here to get these all commented out. So we don't have too many left here. And we'll get these taken care of. So again, we normally would have just a script that would do all this nice stuff for us, so we don't have to sit there and get things like pain on our wrist or carpal tunnel or or whatever else the case might be from poor ergonomics or from repetitive use of our fingers and wrist, etc. But for today's purposes, we kind of had to just go through this manually and do that aspect of it. So you'll see here as I kind of jabber on, with my speech, that we're just about done, which is a good thing. So that was actually our last one there. We'll just do a quick scroll up in this document, make sure we didn't miss anything. Again, the only one that should not be commented out is our black list one right here, our black underscore list. So we see that we're all done there. At least I'm all done on my end. And as I'm talking here for a second, you might have a chance to catch up if you're going a little slower. But again, I'm not going to be pausing here. I'm just going to kind of keep cranking through the lab because we still have a few more minutes to go through. All right, so we've went ahead here in step 100 and commented everything out. So now we're going to go back and click on our find box and just close that out. So let's go ahead and do that now. And while we're doing that, that might give others a chance to kind of catch up here. So just click on it and select close. So let's go back to our lab document. So now we're going to click on and then replace, and we're going to get that replace search box again. All right, so search and then replace. Again, that's about half. All right, so in the find box, we're just going to type $ and then rule underscore path and then /. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're just going to type $ and then we're going to type rule underscore path and then /. All right, in the replace box, we're going to type the exact same thing, but we're going to include pound and then include in front of that and then a space, right? So we're going to still be typing the $ rule path, but we're going to type pound include in front of that. So what you could potentially do, if it'll let me do it, is just copy and paste that in there. And I think I'm actually typing that wrong. I think I need it in front. Yep, thought so. It didn't look right to me, so generally if something doesn't look right, you're wrong. There we go. So we'll just paste that in there. Good deal. So that saves you a little time to do so, and then basically just click replace all once you're at that point there. It'll replace them all. I did, as I was glancing over, I noticed somebody threw Dan threw a quicker method in that you could potentially use to yep, so good share there, Dan. So that's a lot faster than doing the manual process as well. So you might check that out if you're still kind of going through that to get that going. All right, so we've gone through step 106 here. We've clicked replace all, and we see at the bottom of our screen here that 105 occurrences were replaced. All right, so now we're just going to click on the close button, then we're just going to basically save this file and then minimize our text editor. So let's go ahead and do that now. So just click close here, just click on the save. So just go to file, save if you want to, or just click the save button. And then we're just going to minimize this. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So now we're going to go ahead and actually open a command prompt. So we're getting to the last few portions of our lab here. We're going to run it as administrator, and then because we do it that way, it's going to prompt us and say, do you want to do this? And we're going to say, yes, we do, to the UAC prompt. And then we're basically just going to change our directory at that point. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're just going to right click, basically run it as administrator. So right here, command prompt admin. It's going to prompt us, say, do you want to do this? We just say yes to that. It's going to then open a terminal window for us. All right, so again, as I mentioned, we're just going to change directory. So cd /snort /bin. All right, so let's go ahead and do that now. cd snort bin, and then just press enter on your keyboard. You'll see that I'll just basically change your directory for you where we're accessing things. And then we can basically look to see our available network interfaces. Not going to help us too much in the sandbox, just because we only have a couple there, but just so you can see what that looks like. So just type in snort, all lowercase, and then a space and a capital W. And then just press enter, and you'll see that it'll show us our interface here. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So now we're going to type in this kind of long command here. So snort space dash lowercase I space the number 1 space dash lowercase l, and then c colon /snort /log space dash c space c colon /snort /etc /snort .conf space dash capital T. All right, a whole lot. So we're literally going to do this step by step on this component here to make sure we're all typing in the correct command. All right, so we're going to type in snort space dash lowercase I space dash lowercase l. Excuse me, I forgot the number 1 there, so let's back up there. I forgot my number 1. I thought I was missing something. So type the number 1 and then space dash lowercase l and then another space. All right, so now we're going to type in c colon /snort /log. All right, so c colon /snort /log. All right, so now we're going to put another space and then a dash lowercase c. So let's go ahead and do that now. So space dash lowercase c, put another space, and then now we're going to type in lowercase c colon /snort /etc. So we're just going to do that short part there, and then we'll finish it out. So c colon /snort /etc. So c colon /snort /etc. And then put another backward slash there. And then now we're going to finish out with snort.conf space dash capital T. All right, so snort dot, there we go, conf, and then space dash capital T. And then just press enter on your keyboard there. All right, so you'll see it gave me a fatal error there. So we'll see if the other commands work here. So it didn't successfully validate things. That's okay. We'll move on to our next thing. It should successfully validate. That must be an issue on my end. All right, so step 116. Let's move on to this next command, see if we can get this one going as well. So we'll see if we get that one going in our lab. So we're going to type in snort space dash lowercase c. We'll start off with that. It'd be terrible if we did all this configuration and it's not working. I had that happen a few times when I was doing testing. So it's hit and miss, and it was more hit than miss, but we'll see if it actually works. All right, so now we're going to do the C:/ /snort /etc. All right, let's go back to our lab document here. So now we're just going to add in snort.conf, and then we'll just put a space and a dash lowercase l. All right, so now we're just going to do /snort.conf, and then a space, and then a lowercase l, and we'll just put another space there. Now we're going to put C:/ /snort /log. And again, I know some people may have to jump off the call. We're getting right near the time there, so that's why I'm kind of cranking through this and not going through slowly like I normally do. And then we're going to put a space dash capital K and then space and then ASCII. All right, so let's go ahead and do that now. So space dash capital K and then a space and then ASCII. All right, we'll just do that again. And again, we're getting fatal error, so it looks like something's amiss here. All right, we're going to try our last few commands here, see if they work. If they don't, we'll see. Like I said, this was working, and then and sometimes it wasn't working, so I was hoping it was going to cooperate with us today, but that's fine. So you'll see a couple questions here, so run this on your own and see if it is working on your end. If it is, let me know in the chat. If it's not, let me know in the chat, but it should be working. But we'll go ahead and I'll just keep moving through these commands. I'm hoping to get something working. That'd be terrible that we did all that work for no reason. But we might also just need to, I may need to just kind of refresh the lab, which we don't actually have time for. So I'll keep testing it after our session today, see if I can get it working for us. So again, we're going to type our next command, which is going to be snort space lowercase dash I space the number 1 and space dash lowercase v. All right, so let's try that now. We'll just do space lowercase dash I, and then we're going to type the number 1 and then space dash lowercase v. All right, so once we type that in, just press enter. We'll see if that works. Okay, cool. So that's at least giving us some output. Let that run for a few seconds and then just do Control-C on your keyboard. That'll stop that. So I'm happy at least that worked. I was concerned that one wouldn't even work. So question 2 here, and we'll go ahead and just do this one real quick in the chat. Do you see any protocol information after running the snort space dash lowercase I space 1 space dash lowercase v command? So do you see any protocol information in your output at all? So do you see any protocols listed over here? All right, so I'll just pause for a second. Again, I'm gonna kind of crank through to the next one as well since we're coming up on time. But feel free to answer that question in the chat. And so on my end of things, I do see a lot of different protocols in here. Like I see TCP, UDP. I also see IPv4, IPv6, as well as VLAN, Ethernet, UDP, etc. So I see a lot of different protocols in there. All right, let's go back to our lab document. So now we're going to run our last command here, and it looks like we just made it in time. Space lowercase dash I space the number 1 and then lowercase dash vd. So let's go ahead and do that now. So snort lowercase dash I, see if it cooperates. Snort space lowercase dash I space the number 1 space lowercase dash vd. All right, so you'll see it right there. And then just press enter on your keyboard. We'll let that run for a second, if it will run. There we go. Looks like there was a little delay with the lab there. All right, so again, just kind of let that run, for a few seconds or so. And then the question here is going to be, do you see any IP address or port number information after we check through these packets? So we'll just do Control-C after it runs for a little bit. That'll stop everything. And then what you'll want to do is just kind of scroll up a little bit. And then what you're going to be looking for is, do you see any IP addresses, any other information at all, like, port numbers, et cetera, et cetera? Is any of that stuff in here? Now, You may or may not see this information, so feel free to post in the chat. Do you see anything there? And we'll go from there. All right. So we see, at least on my end, we do see IP addresses, and we see, if you remember from our snort, when we were talking about our rules there, we see that this IP address is sending traffic to this IP address, as well as it's going off this port number to this port number. All right, so that was our last step in the lab. I'm gonna, I know we only have a few minutes here, so we'll take a peek and see if there's any questions.